The book you call Meditations was never a book. It was my journal, private notes, written only to myself, not speeches for the Senate, not lessons for disciples, only reminders for one man trying to live with virtue. I wrote in war camps, by dying fires, in nights of sickness and grief. I wrote to hold myself steady when the world threatened to break me. I never intended these words to be read, and yet they survived me. They crossed centuries and found you. If they have brought strength to others, then the gods have used my weakness for good. So now I return to shape those fragments into story. What I once whispered to myself, I now speak to you. This is Chapter 1. Tonight, I write not as emperor, but as a student. The fire is small. The city sleeps. I open my journal to the first and most necessary task, to remember who made me. If there is any steadiness in me, I owe it first to my family. From my grandfather, I learned a plain way of living, no performance, no vanity. He was not a man of slogans. He simply did what was right and then went about his day. When people praised him, he nodded once and returned to work. He taught me the character has a quiet voice. From my father, though I knew him too briefly, I carry the example of modest strength. He was not conquered by appetite or by anger. He moved through rooms like a steady wind, present, useful, and gone before you could make a spectacle of him. When I am tempted to be severe, I try to remember his gentleness. When I am tempted to be soft, I remember his discipline. From my mother, I learned piety and generosity. She gave without ledger, prayed without show, and kept our household free of luxury. She had means and chose simplicity, had taste and chose modesty. The lesson was clear. Wealth is a tool, not a throne. From her, I learned to feed the hungry before feeding my pride. My great-grandfather spared me the clamor of the public schools and gave me good tutors. Money was spent not on feasts, but on teachers. I did not understand the privilege then. I understand it now, when I see how hard it is to unlearn the habits taught by noisy crowds. I was a boy once, easily impressed by trifles, games, applause, the colors of rival chariots. My tutor took me by the shoulder and turned my eyes from the racetrack to the practice yard. Put your energy where it becomes strength, he said, not where it becomes noise. He trained me to endure labor, to speak little, to help without calling attention to my help. A child resists such counsel. A man thanks the giver. From Diognetus, I learned to keep my hands off the toys of superstition and to keep my mind on what can be known. He taught me to love clarity more than mystery for its own sake, to taste the delight of reason as other boys tasted sweets. He opened the door to philosophy and left it unguarded. Once I crossed that threshold, I did not return to childish beliefs. Then came Rusticus, stern, honest Rusticus, who handed me a thin volume of a slave's teachings and said, "Read." Epictetus spoke like a surgeon, few words, steady hands, no time for ornament. The book cut through fat and pride alike. Rusticus would not let me posture as a philosopher. He stripped me of the habit of winning arguments and forced me to attempt something harder, to live by the arguments I could not refute. He taught me to read carefully, to write honestly, to prefer accuracy to elegance. From him, I learned to be grateful for correction, because it is a form of respect. From Apollonius, I learned freedom. Not freedom to do as I please, but freedom from being pushed around by pain, by praise, by fear, by pleasure. He showed me how a man can be firm without hardness, yielding without weakness. In his presence, I saw what equanimity looks like when it is not a word on a page, but a posture in a storm. From Sextus, I learned a different strength, kindness without weakness, and a household governed as a city should be. He listened as if nothing was more important than the person before him. He was serious without gloom, cheerful without frivolity. To watch him was to be instructed in the art of being human. From Alexander the grammarian, I learned a small but valuable discipline: to correct without humiliating. A word out of place is easily fixed. A person's dignity, once crushed, is not. He would rephrase rather than rebuke. I have tried to do the same, and too often failed, but the standard remains before me. From Fronto, I learned to spot the disease of tyrants, suspicion and flattery. He taught me that emperors do not fall from a single blow. They rot from 1,000 small lies told to them and by them. He pressed my hand to the pulse of my own mind and said, "Guard this more closely than your bodyguards guard your door." From Catullus, I learned to receive reproof as a gift. He would say, "Better a sharp friend than a dull conscience." Those words have saved me from many needless enemies, and more importantly, from becoming my own. From my brother Severus, I learned to love truth openly and to pursue justice stubbornly. He taught me to honor those who preferred integrity to safety, and to imagine a state ruled not by the appetite of one man, but by the law that binds ruler and ruled alike. From him, I learned to prize friendship that argues with you rather than flatters you. From Maximus, I learned the rarest of all disciplines, to remain the same man in triumph and in trouble. He rose early, spoke plainly, carried himself like a citizen among citizens. No rage, no complaint, no secret contempt. If he was surprised, joy did not make him careless. If he was struck, pain did not make him cruel. To sit in his company was to feel one's own agitation go quiet, as wind settling on a lake. And from the gods, yes, from the gods, I received many mercies, good ancestors, good teachers, a body sound enough to serve, a mind drawn to philosophy, and countless turns where vice could have taken me and did not. When I look back honestly, I see not a straight road of my own design, but many hands steering me away from cliffs I did not see. What is the point of such remembering? To bind myself to gratitude as a daily duty. Gratitude makes pride impossible, and pride is the beginning of every folly. Gratitude makes resentment ridiculous, and resentment is the rust that eats a ruler's soul. Gratitude makes me useful. It reminds me that what I admire in myself is borrowed, and what I despise in myself can be improved, because others already improved it in themselves and taught me how. When the day goes badly, and many do, memory steadies me. I ask, what would Rusticus have me do with this insult? What would Sextus have me say to this petitioner? How would Maximus walk through this illness? How would my mother spend this coin? These are not ghosts. They are living standards. If I fall below them, I do not cry that I am only a man. I rise, because they were only human too, and they did it. Sometimes I imagine laying all my honors at their feet, the titles, the statues, the victories people chant about in the streets. These are not mine, I would say. They are interest earned on the capital you invested in me. A man who thinks he is self-made is both ungrateful and untrue. I am a debtor, and I will pay, not with coins or monuments, but by becoming the kind of man who honors his creditors. So the journal begins here, at the beginning of wisdom, not with what I have achieved, but with what I have received. If tomorrow brings flattery, I will open these pages and remember Fronto's warnings. If tomorrow brings grief, I will recall my mother's softness and my father's strength. If tomorrow brings power, I will remember Maximus, who wore authority like a plain cloak and set it aside without regret. Let others begin their accounts with triumphs. I begin with thanks. Let others measure a man by what he possesses. I will measure myself by what I pass on. The calm of Sextus, the firmness of Apollonius, the honesty of Rusticus, the justice of Severus, the simplicity of my grandfather, the mercy of my mother. If I can preserve even a fraction of these in my conduct, Rome will be better served than by any spectacle I could arrange. This, then, is my vow by the fire, to live as a grateful heir, to remember each morning that I did not teach myself to walk straight, to remember each evening that I stumbled less because others cleared stones from the path, to spend the day in a way that would not embarrass the dead or disappoint the living, who believed I could do better. If you find anything sound in me, credit those named and many unnamed. If you find anything rotten, blame only me, and pray that tomorrow I will remember my debts and pay again, with interest, in patience, in justice, in restraint, in quiet usefulness. For gratitude is not a feeling that visits. It is a law I choose to obey. And beginning here, at the first line of the first book, I bind myself to it. I close the journal. The fire settles. The city breathes. I am not alone. Even when I am the only one awake, I have my teachers with me, alive in the only way that matters, present in the choices I make, while the stars keep their watch. And if I am wise, I will let their lives continue in mine, until others can say of me what I have said of them, that he took what was given and made it useful, that he remembered, that he repaid, that he was, in the end, a grateful man.